Good afternoon. Today's the 13th of June. It's unseasonably cold, which is why I'm wearing the winter jacket again. And I'd like to take a moment to answer another viewer question. Because Stanley Leopard, who's one of my longest standing subscribers, has asked me to go through some of the process of how I do my job, how I find a car for someone. A lot of what I actually do is trying to kind of match up what sort of vehicle will be suitable for somebody. Now, sometimes somebody will just right out tell me, can you find me a BMW or a Vauxhall, which is actually what happened in the latest one that I did when I sourced the 2013 Vauxhall Insignia. The client that I had was only really interested in those two types of car. And so if somebody really knows what they want, there's no real kind of point in telling them otherwise. I mean, sometimes if I am absolutely sure that I think that something might suit them a little bit better than what they are saying, or I know that something that they want is really not what I would personally ever recommend they have, I will tell them. But ultimately, the choice of what somebody has is up to them and not me. It really depends on the kind of budget, as well as the area somebody's in, as to where I then would start. Generally, with a car that's very cheap, I would not recommend going too far to look for one and being much more open to sort of different brand and types of car than I would if somebody was spending a lot more. The reason for that is because, first and foremost, the condition and history of the car is very, very important. It's all very well saying that you want, a BMW 3 Series for £500, and then finding that the only ones you can afford have no MOT and they've done 250,000 miles. That's, unless it's really what you want and you just want it to maybe last for one go up the drag strip at Pod or something, then you have to really think about the sort of condition and the history of the car, and that's really what I emphasise above anything else. Secondly, one has to bear in mind the running costs, bear in mind tax, potential insurance, things like that. I source a lot of vehicles for people who are looking for their first car, and so they might find that unless it's kept within sensible boundaries, then insurance can run it, and tax and things like that can be quite expensive. So a lot of sort of first cars I've got have had to have been small engines and economical cars, and that's pretty common sense, really. I don't think anybody would disagree with something like that. Once the kind of base sort of line has been established, then I will look for a number of cars, something like 6, that I think are in the area, within the budget, and meet the criteria. Then I ask the client to narrow down to, say, like 3. And once they've done that, I will go into more detailed checks. I'll look at something like the MOT history. I'll make some calls to who's ever selling the car, and I'll find out what it's like, whether there's anything to be concerned about or not. And that's really just a very standard process that I have. There's a bit more to it than that, actually, because I have to know myself, what the engine options and trim options are of a lot of different cars, and to know which ones are going to be good and which ones are going to be bad. And that just comes from years and years and years of experience. Yes, that's the first stage of the process. The next stage of the process is actually going around with the client. Generally, I tend to go with the client rather than me going on my own, although I have gone on my own sometimes if somebody really trusts me, and just seeing the cars. Generally, I recommend seeing between about 2 and 5 cars, normally about 3. I just check them over. I do the normal checks that a lot of you who watch this channel would do. Check the oil, check the coolant, check to see if there are any leaks, check the tyres, just that kind of thing, check if everything works. Look over the MOT if I haven't already inspected it once, which I probably have anyway. And then look at the service history book, take the car for a test drive, make sure overall the client's actually happy with that type of car. Sometimes the client's never driven a car of that type before, and sometimes in the case of a Mitsubishi Space Star, neither have I. And so it's really a case of, you know, identifying in some cases, you know, whether that is a suitable car for somebody. I remember one of the earliest things I did, we were looking at two cars, the Skoda and a Kia, and my client was far keener on the Kia than the Skoda, and having driven both of them, the client concluded that actually the Kia was not the one for them. The particular car, I think it was a Picanto, had a very grabby clutch in it, and the brakes were not very progressive, and they found driving the Skoda to be much easier, and you can't substitute in any way for having somebody sitting behind the wheel of a car and, you know, feeling that that is the right one for them. That's so important. How a car feels, regardless of what it is so important. Once that's done, what I actually do, rather than getting a deal together on the spot, if the client likes one of the cars that we've seen, I will take them away to somewhere, might have a bit of lunch or something like that, or sometimes the client knows immediately what they want to do, and so I'll just take them to one side and we have a chat in my car or something, and we'll go over what we've seen, the number of cars that we've seen, what was good about the car, what was bad about the car, and that'll ask them to make a decision whether they want to go for one of those cars. And in that case, if we're near the location, we just go back there, or if we're not, we just make a phone call and see if we can put a deal together. Sometimes the deal can be done on the spot, and then sometimes the car can even be taken away immediately. And in the case of a second-hand car, very often that you can take it away if you've got the funds in place. New car, the process is a lot longer, and I won't go into that sort of here, because sometimes you could put many months for a car, if it's one that's actually been ordered from the factory. But the process is very similar for any type of car you care to imagine. There's nothing really sort of, I think, in some sense revolutionary about doing this. I use the same kind of methods that a lot of people do. I just sort of package it together in a way that I find works, and that's really all there is to say about it. So I hope you found that video to be informative. I'm not going to give away of sort of the prices of what I charge my services, because you'll just have to get in touch and find out, to be honest. If that's something you want to do, then please visit my website. It's www.lloydvehicleconsulting.co.uk, and use the contact tab to get in touch directly. I'd love to source a car for any of you out there who've been watching this video. It can be virtually anything, really. Please do visit my website. It's facebook.com/Lloyd Vehicle Consulting. Please subscribe to my channel as well. It really does help. Please don't forget to like this video and to leave a comment below. And thank you ever so much again for watching.